All right, Sistas fans, here's my episode review for Season 1, Episode 8, entitled Old Faithful. Right off the bat, oh gosh, okay, so I did not particularly enjoy this episode. Before going in, a few people warned me that, hey man, this episode, you know how last week you really loved the episode of Sisters, it was the best ever and everything, which honestly, that video has darn near 4,000 hits. I have no idea how last week's episode review got so high, but hey, I'll take it. This episode was not good, at least during the first half. Let me just say off the rip. When I got to the 20-minute mark of the episode, no, when I got to the first 5 minutes, I'm like, I'm not going to enjoy this episode because the Andy and Gary stuff was not, no, I didn't care. Then when I got to the 22-minute mark, I literally took an hour break because I just could not finish the episode. I literally did like 4 other things with a couple of different other shows playing. Then I came back. From the moment Calvin and Sabrina had their story arc in the episode to the end of the episode, I thought was pretty good. Yeah, Calvin and Sabrina, and then Karen and Andy talking. Those were the best scenes of the episode. If I only would have watched that 10-minute-ish part of the episode, I would have been satisfied, because basically the first half of the episode, how can I say this? Danny be bitching because Zach be snitching. I guess that's the best way to sum up most of the first chunk of the episode. So I was going to give this episode a 3 or 4 out of 10. But the back half of the episode did save it for me. And if you hear beeping in the background, I don't know if you can. That's because it is like 3:13. Kids are getting out of school. So basically, I'm going to give this episode a 6 out of 10, which I do feel is a bit too high. But the back half, I did enjoy it. So the first part of the episode is basically Andy and Gary back at home. It turns out I think I was wrong at the end of the last episode, because I thought that Paris was dropping Andy off at her office where her car was, instead of just taking her home. But in any case, Gary is confronting her about who was the guy that dropped her off. Andy explained that was the son. And look, I said this in my last episode review. Is Paris the grandson or the son of Miss Irene, the cleaning lady who fainted? I don't know. That's been established yet. But in any case, he apologizes, and be used to hearing that. He says sorry about 50 times in this episode. And she goes on to say that she's going to be representing Jasmine because there's no other choice based off what her boss said. And Jasmine wants to take half. And then, Gary's still jealous about the whole Paris situation, even though Andy says, I'm going out with my girls. But then as soon as she goes to her room, she sees the flower petals on the bed and realizes that he wanted a romantic night together. And he apologizes, and they both apologize. And so we go over to Sabrina at the club, and once again, that dude that was hitting on her in the last episode tries to again. Danny walks by with a guy. Sabrina makes her sit down. That way people will stop hitting on her. And this is pretty much the first half of the episode. Sabrina's trying to be the peacemaker, lay down some of the truths that Zach was telling to Danny, because some of what she's saying is true. Some of what he said to her about what the girls say about her behind her back is, well, true. And she's pissed off about how Andy and Karen keep stuff from her. But then Sabrina does say something like, well, it's because they have to, because you tend to run your mouth about a lot of stuff. But it's only a little thing. So basically, Danny admits to running her mouth, but doesn't. And this is something that's common with people who run their mouth. When they run their mouths, they think the little things don't matter. But sometimes the little things to you mean a lot to another person. And honestly, you're mad about them talking behind your back, but you don't realize that, Danny, what you're doing is exactly what you're mad at them for doing to you. Basically, if you get tea from your sisters and then you run your mouth about that tea to other people, even if it's only a few drops, not even a full cup of tea, you're still doing your sisters dirty. So they have every right to think the way they do about you. So yeah, she's bitching about something that she's literally doing to her friends. So that's all I got to say on that. And I'm not saying I dislike Danny. That's not it at all. I'm just saying, like, sometimes you need to check yourself before you start, bitching at other people and then treating them like dirt. So let's see here. Yeah, Sabrina's saying that, she's getting ready to go to see Calvin. Next thing you know, Karen comes over to the table. Her and Danny go at it. Again, it's all about the whole talking behind your back, blah, 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 blah. And then it comes up about Zach is living with Danny, and then Karen is mad. Danny overreacts, and though, honestly, I know it sounds like I'm skipping, but guys, that's the only thing that happens in the scene. They just go back and forth. And then the only good thing about Karen, what she says, the fact that everything that you're mad about Zach saying in terms of what we say behind your back, we literally said that to your face. And that should be it right there. Andy and Gary obviously had sex. Oh, they love each other, but she wants to go see her girls, but he wants her to stay. And then he admits to being scared about what's going to happen. And she asked about if the private investigator, followed him here. And then and this is what he flips and flops. Is like, I'm sorry. I love you. Okay, let me be vulnerable. But wait, I'm trying to be vulnerable. And now you want to mention this PI thing, even though she's bringing up a very good point. Everything's always about him. That's literally what this is about. Is like, I need you because I'm scared and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then she doesn't leave for girls' night, but she goes to call, I believe, Sabrina or Karen just to say, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it tonight. Yeah, she calls Sabrina, I believe. Danny and Karen are still barking at each other. Sabrina tries to make peace. Again, same thing we saw earlier. Then they both end up leaving, and Andy calls Sabrina, but then she takes a call from Karen to talk about her attitude. So some of the good points about this episode, Danny gets a taste of reality from Sabrina, and well, Andy doesn't get to have the full conversation with Karen because of her attitude at the moment, but she is right to say that you do overreact some, and like, well, Zach had nowhere to go, you kicked her out, but kicked him out, but she did make a good point. It's like, oh, so he can help her with the rent, but not me. A valid point, but you have to be wary because didn't they say that Zach only helped with the security deposit, so that first month's rent, but then didn't pay after that. So just because Danny got the half of the rent this one time doesn't mean it might happen again. I don't know, but Karen gets home and messages someone who I really couldn't tell who it was. I'm like, I see a light-skinned brother, so is that Aaron or somebody to bring the wine? Let's see. Gary doesn't want her to leave because Andy says she needs to go to see Karen because obviously she's upset. He's suspicious about Jasmine taking the money because of the private eyes. Like, wait, what's going on? And he tries to push it on Andy like, wait, is she moving my money? But Andy doesn't know anything and wants nothing to do with this. But she's like, can I have the keys to your car? And once again, brings up a valid point. No, that's a bad idea because if the PI is after you, then if I'm seen driving your car, that would not be a good look. So I think she takes an Uber. She does bring it up, but I hope she did because if she took the car even though it's nighttime, that don't mean a damn thing. Cameras have flash. All right, so Danny gets home. Zach is naked in her bed. She just gets her pen and goes on the couch. Sabrina calls to make sure she's okay. She tells her that Zach's in the bed, and then she's on the couch. She ain't sleeping with him, and that's that. Okay, yeah. So that's most of my entire page of notes. And I know this episode review, I don't dislike the show, guys. It's just that this episode, not a lot of stuff happened. It was a lot of repetitive dialogue and just, okay. So we get to the parts of the episode I like. Calvin and Sabrina, they're about to go at it again. She admits to not being okay with the feminine underwear and then like the fact that his nails are better than hers and everything, but I don't really know how she knew what his toenails looked like because he was wearing boots and socks, but the boots were off and then he had the socks on. So did he manage to take off his pants and socks? I don't know. I'm just thinking too hard. But, she literally says, like, your fingernails. I'm used to men with dirt under their nails and, like, wait, your feet look better than mine. Is that clear nail polish and this and that? But he pretty much shuts it down saying, like, look, obviously the intimacy thing, we can't do that yet because you need to know more about me. And there's some things about you that I don't like, but I don't bring that up. And then he pretty much leaves. So that was a good thing because it's about not judging people based on what you see, but at the same time, you really should know someone before you get intimate with them. So this was a good conversation within a pretty dull episode. So this was one of the two scenes that really saved the episode for me. Then we get to the next one, Karen and some guy, and then it's Rico. So basically, that's her F buddy. And he pretty much shuts it down like, look, you know I care about you a lot, but I'm not doing this anymore. Hope you enjoy the wine. I'm getting married. Peace out. And then Andy shows up right when he leaves, and it turns out that she had a little I don't want to say little because obviously we've never seen the dude, but a little fling of her own with a guy named TJ before she met Gary. And her and Andy have kind of like a heart to heart about the whole situation because Andy is thinking about leaving Gary or telling Gary to, leave. But Karen's pretty much like, well, he did leave his wife for you, so I'm not telling you should stay with him, but you really need to make sure you know what you want because obviously she's a bit attracted to Paris. So women be tripping, man. Let me finish up the episode real quick. Wait, was it JJ or TJ? I forgot. But basically, Andy had somebody with initials. And finally, Zach wakes up, staggers to the bathroom. Danny gets to her bed, and then Zach tries to make out with her, and that's the end of the episode. So obviously, I think it's safe to say in the next episode they don't have sex, but she tries to play it off like they did. So that was in the preview. But going back to women be tripping. Okay, what I did like about the episode is the fact that this does show that friend groups, male or female, have arguments over dumb stuff. Males is ego, like women and guys do the same thing. It's in semi different ways, but it was good to actually see one of the characters bring up the fact that they don't like how their friend group is broken up into cliques, but doesn't recognize that she's actually the reason why half of the group has their own side and then the other half has their own side of information. Then on top of that, the whole women thing, men aren't the only ones who pull tricks or have side pieces, if you will. And I did like that. I mean, Karen, when she had dude come over, I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Because he seemed a bit, like, what's like, headstrong about what his intentions were. So then she took out the counter and everything. So it's like, well, was she messing around with Rico behind Zach's back or what? Like, what's going on here? So I was shocked by that in terms of seeing that on the episode, but at the same time, it really brought things home in terms of this is what people do. They can be in committed relationships, but they aren't above having side pieces. And Rico standing up for himself, hell, I get that. I've been that Rico, like, obviously not the F buddy for a girl, but at the same time, like that guy that's only called upon when they need something, whether it be emotional support or whatever. But when they're off with their dude or they find somebody, they pretty much leave you to the curb. So I related to that, hence why the episode got a 6 out of 10. So overall, the episode was lackluster, but it did have a couple of great moments. And I love the bit about Andy saying that she wanted to call Karen's mom only because, Karen's mom tells it like it is. And I like that. It's just, it was good. It was good. So this episode, if I were to recommend it, I would just say, hey, you know what? Just watch like the second half of it from the moment that Sabrina gets home and Calvin's waiting for her, and then watch the rest of it. The rest of it is just very skippable. The Andy Gary stuff, I don't really care because Gary is just the same thing over and over. I'm sorry, I love you. And then he tries to make everything about him. And honestly, just based off his behavior, I could believe he's the abusive type. Whether it be, I don't know if it's exactly physical, but I think he's definitely the jealous type, but isn't above sleeping around on his wife and manipulating her emotionally. Like every time she tries to come to him with a problem, he flips it around and makes it about him. And so abuse comes in more than just physical, sometimes it's mentally, that will do even worse damage. So, I don't know. But overall, Sistas, we'll see. We'll see. I thought last week was fantastic. This was not a good follow-up for the most part, but maybe next week will be better. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think of the episode? Do you even watch the series? Did you start, but then you gave up on it? But one thing not to give up on is the fact that we are close to 100,000 subscribers. We need about 750 more to go. So guys, I made post on Instagram and the YouTube community tab. You saw the large stack of Tyler Perry DVDs that are brand spanking new. I bought them off Amazon as well in Walmart because during the Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, I found a lot of Tyler Perry stuff for like $3.74, $5, $2. So these DVDs are brand new. You know the drill. I'll do my giveaways on Instagram, hence why you need to follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. And we'll go from there. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm about to take a quick break to rest my vocal cords. Then I'll come back and do the oval because I got a lot to say about that episode.